The conference room door slammed shut behind me, and I stumbled forward, catching myself against the mahogany table. Pain exploded through both shoulders, white-hot, searing, the kind that makes your vision blur and your stomach turn. "I asked you a question, Tara." Raphael Morris circled me like a predator, his breath reeking of whiskey even though it was barely 10 in the morning. "Where are the Bergman files?" "I told you." My voice cracked. I tried to lift my arms to steady myself, but they hung useless at my sides, screaming with every micro-movement. "I gave them to accounting yesterday. I submitted everything through the proper channels." His hand shot out, gripping my chin hard enough to bruise. I flinched, tears stinging my eyes, not from sadness, but from pure animal fear. This was Raphael Morris, CFO of Morris Industries, son of the late Thomas Morris, brother to the CEO everyone whispered about but rarely saw. This was also the man who'd been making my life hell for 3 months. "Proper channels." He laughed, but there was nothing warm in it. "You mean you went over my head? Again? You think because Isaac promoted you to senior analyst, you can do whatever you want?" "I was following protocol." The slap came out of nowhere. My head snapped to the side and I tasted copper. The room tilted. I tried to catch myself, but my arms wouldn't cooperate, and I crumpled to the floor, landing hard on my knees. The impact sent fresh agony through my shoulders. I bit down on my lip to keep from crying out. "Don't give him the satisfaction. Don't let him see you break. You're going to learn your place, sweetheart." Raphael crouched down, his face inches from mine. "You're going to learn that in this company, blood means everything. And you?" He smiled, cold and cruel. "You're nobody." I wanted to spit in his face. I wanted to tell him that his blood meant nothing if he was a monster. But my shoulders were throbbing, my cheek was on fire, and I was alone in this room with a man who clearly didn't care about consequences. "Raphael." The voice came from the doorway, quiet but carrying enough weight to stop the world. "Step away from her. Now." I looked up through blurred vision and saw him. Isaac Morris, the CEO. 6'3" of controlled fury in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my car. Dark hair, storm gray eyes that could freeze you from across a room, and a jawline that belonged on a movie screen. I'd only seen him twice in my 8 months at Morris Industries. Once during my interview, though he hadn't been the one interviewing me, and once in passing in the executive elevator when I'd been delivering reports to the top floor. Both times I'd felt his eyes on me, studying me, like I was a puzzle he was trying to solve. "Isaac." Raphael stood, his demeanor shifting instantly. "I was just having a conversation with Ms. Jones about some missing files." "I said step away." The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Raphael moved back, hands raised in mock surrender, but his eyes promised retribution later. Isaac walked past his brother without another glance and knelt beside me. His hand hovered near my shoulder, then pulled back when I winced. "Don't," I managed to whisper. "Don't touch your arms." His voice was rough, barely controlled. "What did he do to your arms?" "I fell." The lie came automatically. You learned quickly in corporate America. You don't accuse executives of assault unless you want to lose everything. "I'm clumsy, I just..." "Don't." His eyes met mine, and for a moment, everything else disappeared. "Don't lie to me, Tara. Who dislocated your arms?" The way he said my name, like he'd said it 1,000 times before, like it meant something, made my breath catch. How did he even know my name? I was a mid-level analyst. He was the CEO of a billion-dollar empire. No one, I whispered. Please, I need this job. I can't. Marcus! Isaac's voice cracked like a whip. A man I recognized as head of security appeared in the doorway instantly. Call Dr. Winters. Tell her it's an emergency and to meet us at my private elevator. Then escort Mr. Raphael Morris to his office and ensure he stays there until I decide what to do with him. Isaac, you can't be serious, Raphael started. One more word and you'll be explaining yourself to the board. Isaac's eyes never left mine as he spoke. And trust me, brother, they won't like what I have to tell them about the Bergman discrepancies. Raphael's face went white. He opened his mouth, closed it, then stalked out of the conference room with Marcus following close behind. We were alone. I'm going to lift you now, Isaac said softly. It's going to hurt, but I need to get you to medical. Can you stand if I help support your weight? I nodded, not trusting my voice. His arm came around my waist. Careful, so careful. And he helped me to my feet. The world swayed, and I leaned into him without thinking. He was solid, warm, and he smelled like cedar and something darker, more expensive. Why are you helping me? The question slipped out before I could stop it. You don't even know me. Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, or pain. I know you, Tara Jones. I've known you since the day you walked into your interview wearing that navy suit with the coffee stain on the sleeve that you tried to hide with your portfolio. My heart stopped. That was 8 months ago. 8 months and 14 days. He guided me toward the door, his voice dropping lower. You ordered your coffee black, no sugar. You were 12 minutes early. You had 3 copies of your resume, even though we'd only asked for 1. And when Douglas tried to lowball you on salary, you negotiated up $15,000 without blinking. I stared at him. Why would you remember that? Because I sat in on that interview. We reached the hallway, empty, thank God, and he steered me toward the executive elevator. Behind the one-way glass in the observation room. Douglas didn't know I was there. But why? The elevator doors opened. He helped me inside, then pressed his palm against a scanner I'd never noticed before. The panel lit up with floors I didn't even know existed. Because I wanted to see if you were as brilliant as your portfolio suggested. He finally looked at me fully, and the intensity in his eyes made me forget about the pain for a moment. Because I'd seen you at the Riverside Cafe 3 weeks before your interview, arguing with the barista about fair trade coffee practices, and I thought anyone who cared that much about ethics in a coffee shop might be exactly what my company needed. You saw me at a cafe. My voice sounded faint even to my own ears. And you remembered me. I've remembered you every day since. The elevator climbed higher. I tried to process what he was saying, but my brain felt like it was full of cotton. I don't understand. I know, and I'm sorry for that. The elevator stopped, and the doors opened onto a floor I'd never seen. All glass and chrome and leather, more like a luxury apartment than an office. I'm sorry I didn't find a way to talk to you before this. I'm sorry I let you work under my brother without knowing what he was capable of. And I'm sorry you're in pain because I failed to protect you. A woman in a white coat appeared. Dr. Winters, I assumed, with a medical bag. Mr. Morse, let's see what we're working with. The next 20 minutes were a blur of careful examination, X-rays from a portable machine I didn't know existed, and injections that made the pain fade to a manageable throb. Both shoulders dislocated, Dr. Winters confirmed. Someone had grabbed my arms and twisted them backward with significant force. He did this. Isaac's voice was deadly quiet as the doctor explained. My brother did this to you. Mr. Morris, Dr. Winters started. How long will recovery take? With physical therapy, 6 to 8 weeks for full mobility. She'll need to wear slings for at least 2 weeks, possibly longer. Isaac nodded once, his jaw tight. Then he turned to me. You're not going back to your desk today. You're not going anywhere near Raphael. And you're going to tell me everything. I can't. Fear clawed at my throat. If I accuse him, he'll destroy me. His word against mine, and he's a Morris. So am I. The simple statement hung in the air between us. Dr. Winters quietly packed up her equipment and slipped away, leaving us alone in what I now realized was Isaac's personal office suite. I don't understand why you care, I whispered. You're the CEO. I'm nobody, just like Raphael said. His eyes flashed with something dark and dangerous. Did he call you that? Nobody? I nodded. Then he's a bigger fool than I thought. Isaac moved closer, not touching me, but close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. You're not nobody, Tara. You're the woman who increased efficiency in the analytics department by 32% in your first 6 months. You're the analyst who caught the Bergman discrepancy that my CFO was trying to bury. You're the person who works late 3 nights a week, not because you have to, but because you care about doing things right. How do you know all that? Because I've been watching you. He said it without shame, without apology. Because from the moment I saw you in that cafe, arguing about ethics with a stranger, I couldn't stop thinking about you. Because I've read every report you've submitted. Because I've watched you navigate a company that should have eaten you alive, and somehow you've managed to stay kind, stay honest, stay yourself. My breath caught. That's not normal. I know. A muscle worked in his jaw. I know it's not. And if you want to leave Morris Industries after this, I'll write you a recommendation that will get you hired anywhere in the city. I'll set you up with a severance package that will carry you for a year. I'll do whatever you need. But I'm asking you to stay. His hand lifted, hovering near my face like he wanted to touch me, but didn't dare. I'm asking you to let me fix this. Let me deal with Raphael. Let me make sure you're safe. And let me have a chance. A chance at what? At proving that I'm not like my brother. At showing you that not every Morris is a monster. At earning the right to take you to dinner once your shoulders heal. And maybe, if I'm very lucky, earning more than that. This was insane. This was the CEO of Morris Industries basically confessing that he'd been, what, obsessed with me? Watching me? For 8 months? I should have been terrified. I should have taken his severance offer and run. But when I looked into his eyes, I didn't see the cold, calculating executive everyone whispered about. I saw something raw and real and desperate. I saw someone who looked at me the way I'd secretly dreamed someone might. I need to know what happened today, he said quietly. Not as your CEO, as someone who cares about you. Please, Tara, tell me what my brother did. So I did. I told him everything. The 3 months of escalating harassment, the assignments Raphael had stolen credit for, The way he'd corner me in empty offices and stand too close. The comments about my appearance, my background, my place in the company. The files he'd demanded I falsify, and how I'd refused and gone to accounting instead. And finally, this morning, how he'd called me to the conference room under the pretense of a project discussion. How he'd locked the door. How he'd grabbed my arms and twisted until I felt something pop, and the pain had been so intense I'd nearly vomited. He said I needed to learn my place. I finished, my voice barely above a whisper. He said blood means everything, and I'm nobody. Isaac was silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was controlled, but I could hear the fury underneath like lava beneath stone. My brother is going to wish he'd never been born. Isaac, Dr. Winters is filing a medical report. Marcus has already pulled security footage from the conference room. Yes, there are cameras, even in the executive spaces. Raphael didn't know that because our father installed them before he died, and I never told anyone except security. He pulled out his phone, already typing. By end of business today, Raphael will be suspended pending investigation. By the end of the week, he'll be terminated and facing criminal charges. And by the end of the month, he'll be explaining to a judge why he assaulted an employee. He's your brother. He's a criminal who hurts someone He stopped abruptly, then continued more carefully. Someone I care about. Family doesn't give you the right to destroy people, Tara. And Raphael has been destroying this company from the inside for years. You were just the last straw. I wanted to argue. I wanted to tell him it wasn't worth it, that I'd just find another job, that I didn't want to be the reason brothers became enemies. But my shoulders were throbbing despite the medication. My cheeks still burned from where Raphael had struck me. And when I closed my eyes, I could still feel his hand on my chin, his breath on my face, his promise that I would learn my place. Okay, I whispered. Isaac's eyes widened slightly. Okay. I'll stay. I'll testify if needed. I'll do whatever it takes to make sure he can't do this to anyone else. I met his gaze steadily. And after my shoulders heal, you can take me to dinner. The smile that crossed his face was like sunrise, slow, warm, transforming. Yeah? But I have conditions. Name them. No more watching me without talking to me. No more reading my reports without introducing yourself. If you want to know something about me, you ask. I took a shaky breath. And you tell me the truth about why. Why me? Why did some random argument in a cafe make you remember me for 3 weeks? Why did you sit in on my interview? What is it you think you see? He was quiet for a moment, and I thought maybe I'd pushed too far. But then he pulled over a leather chair and sat down so we were eye level. My father built Morris Industries from nothing, he began. And in the process, he became someone I didn't recognize. Someone who valued profit over people, success over integrity. By the time he died, he'd turned my brother into a younger version of himself. Ruthless, entitled, cruel. And he tried to do the same to me. Isaac's hands clenched on his knees. For years, I told myself I was different, that I was running this company the right way, making ethical choices. But the truth is, I was just maintaining the machine my father built. I wasn't changing anything. I was just managing. What does that have to do with me? I saw you in that cafe, arguing with a stranger about coffee farmers you'd never meet, in the country you'd probably never visit. You didn't have to care. There was no profit in it, no benefit to you. You cared because it was right. He looked up at me, and I realized I'd surrounded myself with people who only cared about the bottom line. People like my brother. And I was so tired of it, Tara. So tired of feeling like I was drowning in my father's shadow. So you thought, what, I could save you? No. His voice was firm. I thought you could remind me who I wanted to be. I thought if I could build a company full of people like you, people who do the right thing even when it's hard, even when no one's watching, maybe I could finally bury my father's legacy for good. I stared at him. This wasn't some romantic fantasy where the billionaire falls for the girl and sweeps her off her feet. This was messier, more complicated, more real. That's a lot of pressure, I said finally. I know. That's why I never approached you. I wanted you here. I wanted at least one person in this building who still had their soul intact. He laughed bitterly. And then I let my brother hurt you anyway. Some change I'm making. You didn't let him. You didn't know. I should have known. I should have been paying attention to what was happening on the executive floor instead of reading your reports from my office and pretending that was enough. The vulnerability in his voice made something crack open in my chest. This wasn't the untouchable CEO. This was just a man who'd inherited a legacy he didn't want and was trying desperately to be better than the father who'd raised him. Isaac. I waited until he looked at me. I don't know if I can be your reminder, or your inspiration, or whatever you think you need. I'm just an analyst trying to pay my student loans and not get murdered by my CFO. I know. But, I continued, I meant what I said. After I heal, we can have dinner. We can see if there's something real here beyond your coffee shop epiphany and your white knight complex. And maybe, we can figure out if you're actually interested in me, Tara Jones, or if you're just interested in what I represent to you. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. That's fair. That's more than fair. And Tara? Yeah? For what it's worth, I think about your laugh, the way you hum while you work, how you always hold the elevator for people, even when you're running late. The fact that you keep a photo of your grandmother on your desk and you touch it every morning before you start. His eyes held mine. I notice you. Not just what you represent. You. My throat felt tight. How do you know I hum when I work? Because sometimes I find excuses to walk past your floor, just to see if you're okay. He smiled slightly. I told you I've been watching you. I meant it. That's creepy. I know. But also kind of romantic. I was hoping you'd think so. Despite everything, the pain, the fear, the absolute insanity of the situation, I laughed. It hurt my shoulders, but I couldn't help it. You're a mess, Isaac Morris. I know that too. He stood, then gently helped me to my feet. Come on, I'm taking you home. Dr. Winters said you need rest, and you're not arguing with me about this. I have work. That can wait. Your health is more important. Isaac, I can't just... Tara. He stepped closer, and his hand finally made contact. The gentlest touch on my uninjured cheek. Please, let me take care of you. Just for today. Tomorrow you can go back to being independent and stubborn and refusing help. But today, let me do this. I should have said no. I should have maintained boundaries. I should have at least pretended I didn't want his help. But I was tired, and I hurt, and the way he was looking at me made me feel like maybe, just maybe, I wasn't nobody after all. "Okay," I whispered. His smile was worth every second of pain. Isaac's home turned out to be a penthouse that covered the entire top floor of a building in the financial district. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. Art I recognized from museum catalogs hung on the walls. The kitchen had appliances I couldn't even name. And yet, when he led me to the guest room, it was surprisingly understated. Comfortable without being ostentatious. Warm without trying too hard. "I'm going to call my assistant and have her pick up some things from your apartment," Isaac said. "Clothes, toiletries, whatever you need. Just give me your address and tell me where to find your keys." "I can go home." "Your apartment is a 4th floor walk-up." His tone brooked no argument. "You can barely lift your arms. You're staying here, where I can make sure you're okay." This is moving really fast. I know. If you're uncomfortable, I'll get you a hotel suite instead. Whatever you need. I looked around the guest room. The comfortable bed, the attached bathroom, the door that locked from the inside. Then I looked at Isaac, standing in the doorway with his hands in his pockets, trying so hard to look like this was all normal and not the weirdest first day of dating that had ever happened. "I'll stay," I decided. "But you're sleeping in your own room." "Obviously." "And we're setting ground rules." "Whatever you want." "And you're explaining everything about Raphael. Why he hates me so much, what the Bergman discrepancy is, all of it." Isaac nodded slowly. "Are you sure you want to know? It's not pretty." "I'm sure." He sighed, then came into the room and sat in the armchair by the window, keeping careful distance. "Raphael has been embezzling from the company for 2 years. Small amounts at first, hidden in accounting errors and rounding discrepancies. But over time, it added up. We're talking about $12 million. I felt my jaw drop. 12 million? The Bergman account was his latest scheme. He was creating fake vendor payments, routing money through shell companies, then bringing it back into his personal accounts. You caught it because you actually read through the line items instead of just rubber stamping the reports like everyone else does. Why didn't you stop him sooner? Because I didn't have proof until you flagged the discrepancy. I had suspicions, but Raphael was careful. He always made sure there was someone else to blame if things went wrong. Usually, low-level employees who couldn't fight back. My stomach turned. He's been setting people up. And firing them for his own crimes. Yes. Isaac's voice was tight with barely controlled anger. You were supposed to be another scapegoat. He was going to have you sign off on the Bergman payments, then discover the fraud and pin it all on you. But I didn't sign. No. You went to accounting instead and reported the discrepancy through proper channels, which meant there was now a paper trail that pointed directly at Raphael, instead of at some convenient scapegoat. Isaac met my eyes. You ruined 2 years of carefully constructed fraud. That's why he hurt you today. He was trying to scare you into silence. I felt cold all over. If you'd been 5 minutes later. I know. His hands clenched on the armrests. I know, Tara. And it's going to haunt me for the rest of my life that I almost didn't come to that conference room. I was in a meeting. My assistant told me Raphael had called you upstairs, and something about the timing felt wrong. but I almost brushed it off as paranoia. What made you come? Instinct. And the fact that you always take the stairs to avoid the executive elevator. Which means if Raphael had called you up, something was very wrong. You notice that I take the stairs? I notice everything about you. He said it simply, like it was obvious. It's a problem, actually. I'm trying to work on it. Despite everything, I smiled. Yeah, well, maybe dial the surveillance down about 60% and we'll call it even. Deal. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Outside, the city glittered in the afternoon sun. My shoulders were starting to ache again, but it was manageable. What happens now? I asked quietly. Now, Raphael gets what's coming to him. Now you heal. And now, he trailed off, then stood and moved to the door. Now I'm going to let you rest while I make some calls that are going to ruin my brother's life. Isaac. He paused, looking back. Thank you. For believing me. For helping me. For everything. His expression softened. You don't have to thank me, Tara. This is what anyone decent would do. But not everyone is decent. No, he agreed quietly. Not everyone is. After he left, I lay down on the impossibly comfortable bed and stared at the ceiling. My life had gone from normal to completely insane in the span of 6 hours. My boss's brother had assaulted me. The CEO had confessed to basically stalking me for 8 months. And now I was staying in said CEO's penthouse while he orchestrated his own brother's destruction. This was either the beginning of something amazing or the setup for a true crime documentary. I was too tired to figure out which. I woke to the smell of food and the sound of quiet voices. For a moment, I couldn't remember where I was. The bed was too soft, the sheets too expensive, the light coming through the windows all wrong. Then my shoulders reminded me with a sharp throb, and everything came flooding back. I sat up carefully, wincing at the pull in my muscles. Someone had left water and pain medication on the nightstand. I took both gratefully, then noticed the note beside them. Dr. Winters says to take these every 6 hours. I've ordered dinner, nothing fancy, just soup and bread. Come out when you're ready. Isaac. His handwriting was surprisingly messy for a CEO. I smiled despite myself, then carefully got out of bed and made my way to the bathroom. The woman in the mirror looked rough. Bruised cheek, tangled hair, exhaustion carved into every line of her face. But her eyes were clear, determined. Raphael Morris had hurt me, but he hadn't broken me. I cleaned up as best I could, one-handed, then ventured out into the penthouse. Voices led me to the kitchen, where I found Isaac with a woman I didn't recognize. She was younger than me, maybe mid-20s, with tablet in hand and an expression of grim satisfaction. Confirmed the wire transfers, she was saying. Marcus got the security footage backed up on 3 separate servers, and the FBI is already reviewing— Oh. She noticed me and stopped. You must be Miss Jones. I'm Sarah, Mr. Morris's assistant. How are you feeling? Like I got hit by a truck made of terrible life choices. She snorted, and I saw Isaac hide a smile. Sarah's been helping coordinate the Raphael situation, he explained, gesturing to the tablet. Turns out, when you have evidence of systematic embezzlement, assault, and intimidation, things move pretty quickly. How quickly? FBI raided his home office 3 hours ago. They found records of 12 different shell companies and evidence linking him to at least 6 other incidents of employee intimidation. He'll be arrested before morning. Isaac's voice was calm, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. It's over, Tara. He can't hurt you anymore. I sank into one of the kitchen chairs, suddenly lightheaded. He's really going to prison. For a very long time, Sarah confirmed. The evidence is overwhelming, and Mr. Morris has made it clear he'll be cooperating fully with the investigation. Even though Raphael is your brother? I looked at Isaac. Especially because he's my brother. His gray eyes were steady. My father taught him that being a Morris meant you could do whatever you wanted without consequences. I'm teaching him that was a lie. Sarah cleared her throat. I should go. I'll email you the updates tonight. She nodded to me. It was nice meeting you, Miss Jones. I'm glad you're safe. After she left, Isaac busied himself with plating soup while I tried to process everything. $12 million. 6 other victims. FBI raids? This was so far beyond a simple workplace assault, I could barely comprehend it. You're quiet, Isaac observed, setting a bowl in front of me. I'm just trying to understand how this happened. How everyone looked the other way for so long. Because Raphael was good at making people afraid. And because I was too focused on the big picture to see what was happening right in front of me. He sat down across from me, his own soup untouched. I failed those other 6 people. I failed you. And I'm going to spend a very long time making sure nothing like this happens again. How? Complete overhaul of HR. Anonymous reporting system with external investigation. Regular audits from third-party firms. And I'm bringing in people like you. People who actually give a damn about doing the right thing to help rebuild the culture. He met my eyes. If you'll help me. Isaac, I'm just an analyst. You're the analyst who caught $12 million in fraud. You're the person who refused to falsify records even when threatened. You're exactly who I need. He leaned forward. I'm offering you a position as Director of Ethical Compliance. Your job will be to find the problems I can't see. To push back when something's wrong. To be the person who keeps Morris Industries honest. I stared at him. That's a huge promotion. You've earned it. Hell, you earned it 3 months ago when you first stood up to Raphael. I'm just finally doing something about it. I don't have experience, you have integrity. The rest you can learn. He picked up his spoon, then set it down again. But if you don't want the position, that's okay too. Like I said before, I'll set you up with recommendations anywhere in the city. I want you to know you have options. Real ones. You don't have to stay here out of fear or obligation. I looked at the soup cooling in front of me. Had Isaac sitting across the table, looking more uncertain than any CEO should. At the gleaming penthouse that could have been cold, but somehow felt warm. What if I stay and it doesn't work? I asked quietly. What if I take the job and the dinner and all of it, and 6 months from now we realize this was just trauma bonding? Then we'll deal with it like adults. You'll still have your job. I'll put it in writing that the position isn't contingent on anything personal. And we'll figure out how to work together professionally. He smiled slightly. Though I'd be lying if I said I'm not hoping for more than that. You're really all in on this, aren't you? Tara, I've been all in since I saw you yelling at a barista about Guatemalan farmers. Everything since then has just been me trying to work up the courage to talk to you. I took a spoonful of soup. Chicken and rice. Simple and comforting. My grandmother used to make something similar when I was sick. Okay, I said. Finally. Okay to the job, or okay to dinner, or... Yes. Isaac blinked. Yes to what? All of it. The job, the dinner, the completely insane situation we found ourselves in. I set down my spoon and looked at him directly. But I need you to understand something. I'm not your salvation. I'm not going to fix you, or your company, or your daddy issues. I'm just a person who tries to do the right thing most of the time and fails probably more often than you think. I know that. Do you? Because you keep talking about me like I'm some kind of ethical paragon. And Isaac, I'm really not. I littered last week because there wasn't a trash can nearby. I lied to my grandmother about liking her new haircut. I've definitely used company time to online shop. I felt heat rising in my cheeks. I'm messy and complicated, and sometimes I do the wrong thing even when I know better. You need to know that before you put me on some kind of pedestal. He was quiet for a long moment, studying me. Then he started to laugh. Deep, genuine laughter that transformed his whole face. What's funny? You are. You're sitting here, injured because of my brother, in my penthouse after the craziest day of your life. And you're worried about admitting you littered once. He shook his head, still smiling. Tara, I don't think you're perfect. I think you try, even when it's hard. That's all I'm asking for. Someone who tries. Then I think we might be okay. Yeah? Yeah. We finished dinner talking about anything except Raphael, work, or the impossibility of our situation. I learned that Isaac played piano but refused to perform for anyone. That he'd spent 2 years teaching English in South Korea after college, trying to escape his father's shadow. That he hated action movies but had seen every episode of a baking show because it reminded him of his mother, who died when he was 15. He learned that I'd wanted to be a teacher before student loans made me choose a more practical career. That I spoke exactly 1 sentence of Spanish and 3 sentences of French, all of them useless in actual conversation. That my grandmother had raised me after my parents died in a car accident when I was 7, and she was still the most important person in my life. She sounds amazing, Isaac said when I finished telling him about her. She is. She's going to think I'm making this whole thing up when I tell her. You're going to tell her? Eventually. When I can figure out how to explain that my CEO has been watching me for 8 months without making him sound like a serial killer. Isaac winced. Fair point. Maybe lead with the part where I saved you from my homicidal brother? That's not much better, honestly. We both laughed, and for a moment, everything felt almost normal. Like we were just 2 people getting to know each other over dinner, not a CEO and his employee navigating trauma and attraction and the complete destruction of workplace boundaries. My phone rang, glanced at the screen. Unknown number. Isaac's expression immediately shifted into something harder, more alert. Don't answer it, he said quietly. But I already had. Hello? Heavy breathing on the other end. Then a voice I recognized. You think this is over? You think my brother can protect you forever? Raphael. Calling from God knows where before the FBI picked him up. If you call this number again, I'll have you charged with witness intimidation on top of everything else, I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. You're done, Raphael. You lost. You're going to regret this. Both of you. The only regret is that it took me so long to stop you. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but I felt something like triumph coursing through me. Isaac was already on his phone, presumably calling someone about the call. Marcus is tracing the number now, he said. The FBI will pick him up within the hour. Good. You okay? I thought about it. I was injured, exhausted, and had just been threatened by a man who dislocated both my arms that morning. But I was also sitting in a safe place, eating good food, with someone who actually cared about my well-being. Yeah, I said finally. I'm okay. And surprisingly, I meant it. The next few weeks were a blur of doctor's appointments, FBI interviews, and learning to navigate the world with limited arm mobility. Isaac was there for all of it, driving me to appointments, sitting with me during interviews, helping me figure out how to eat and dress and function with both arms in slings. He kept his distance otherwise. Separate bedrooms, no inappropriate touches. He treated me like spun glass, which was sweet, but also slightly annoying. I'm injured, not dying, I told him after he'd tried to help me cut my food for the third time. I can handle a fork, Isaac. I know. He ran a hand through his hair. I keep thinking about what could have happened if I'd been 5 minutes later. 10 minutes. If Marcus hadn't gotten the call, But you weren't. And I'm healing. And Raphael is in federal custody awaiting trial. I put down my fork and looked at him seriously. You can't spend the rest of your life making up for your brother's actions. At some point, you have to let yourself off the hook. I don't think I can. Then try. For me. He was quiet for a long moment, then nodded. I'll try. True to his word, Isaac began including me in the company restructuring plans even before I was officially healed. We spent hours talking about anonymous reporting systems, external audits, cultural transformation. He listened to my ideas. Really listened. Not just the performative listening some executives do before doing whatever they wanted anyway. What if we required all executives to spend 1 week per year working in entry-level positions? I suggested one evening. We were in his study, me propped up on the couch with my laptop balanced awkwardly on my knees, him at his desk reviewing. Proposals. Not as some undercover boss thing, but genuine work, to remember what it's like. Isaac looked up from his paperwork. That's actually brilliant. You think it would work? I think it might help executives remember that their employees are human beings, not line items on a budget report. I love it. Let's add it to the proposal. This became our routine. Work during the day, me handling what I could from Isaac's penthouse, him going to the office and bringing back reports for me to review. Dinners together where we talked about everything and nothing. Late nights planning how to rebuild a company culture from the ground up. And slowly, carefully, we began to cross the line from professional to personal. It started small. Isaac's hand brushing mine when he handed me coffee. Me falling asleep on his couch during a movie and waking up with a blanket draped over me. The way he'd watch me when he thought I wasn't looking. Like I was something precious he was afraid to break. You're staring again, I said one evening without looking up from my laptop. Sorry. Don't apologize. Just admit you're doing it. I'm staring because you're beautiful and brilliant, and I'm trying very hard to be patient and respectful, but it's killing me not to touch you. I looked up. Isaac was gripping his pen so hard his knuckles were white. His eyes locked on me with an intensity that made my breath catch. My shoulders are healing, I said quietly. I know. Dr. Winters says I can start reducing the sling time next week. I know that too. Isaac, I closed my laptop and set it aside. Come here. He moved across the room like a man approaching something dangerous. When he reached the couch, he knelt beside it, bringing us eye to eye. I don't want to hurt you, he said. You won't. I don't want to rush you. You're not. Tara. I kissed him, leaned forward despite the pull in my shoulders, and pressed my lips to his. Soft and careful and full of every feeling I'd been holding back for weeks. He froze for half a second. Then his hand came up to cup my face. Gentle. So gentle. And he kissed me back like I was air and he'd been drowning. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. I've wanted to do that for 8 months, he whispered. I've wanted you to do that for 8 weeks. Is this okay? Are we okay? Isaac. I pulled back enough to look him in the eyes. You've spent 2 months taking care of me, protecting me, including me in your work, and respecting every boundary I've set. You've let me get to know you. Not CEO Isaac Morris, but just Isaac. The man who burns pasta because he gets distracted, who plays piano at midnight when he can't sleep, who sends money to his mother's favorite charity every month because it makes him feel connected to her. I smiled. Yes, we're okay. Better than okay. His answering smile was like dawn breaking. Yeah? Yeah. He kissed me again, slower this time, deeper. His hand stayed carefully away from my shoulders, but everywhere else, my face, my waist, tangling in my hair. He touched me like he'd been starving for it. Bedroom, I managed between kisses. Your shoulders are fine, and if you mention them one more time, I'm going to question your actual interest in me versus your interest in playing Florence Nightingale. He laughed against my mouth. Fair point. Okay, bedroom. But we're going slow. Isaac, I've waited 8 months. I can wait a little longer to do this right. And he did. He carried me to the bedroom, the master this time, not the guest room, and spent what felt like hours just kissing me, learning the geography of my body, finding every place that made me sigh or arch or forget my own name. We didn't go all the way. My shoulders weren't ready for that yet, and honestly, neither was I. But we learned each other in other ways. And when I finally fell asleep in his arms, I felt safer than I had in months. Maybe years. Maybe ever. 6 weeks after Raphael's arrest, Dr. Winters cleared me to return to work full-time. I showed up at Morris Industries headquarters wearing a suit that actually fit properly. Isaac had insisted on taking me shopping once I could lift my arms again, and carrying a briefcase that didn't have coffee stains. People stared. I couldn't tell if it was because everyone knew what Raphael had done to me, or because I was arriving with Isaac, or because I was stepping into an executive elevator that normal analysts never used. Probably all three. You ready for this? Isaac asked quietly as the elevator climbed. To become the most talked about person in the company? Absolutely not. You'll be great. They need someone like you. Someone like me is going to fire at least 3 people in the first month. Good. They probably deserve it. The doors opened onto the executive floor, my floor now, and Isaac stepped out first, then offered me his hand. Director Jones, welcome to your new office. The space was beautiful. Corner office, windows overlooking the city. A desk that probably cost more than my car. And on that desk, a framed photo I recognized. My grandmother. The same one I'd kept at my old desk. How did you... I had Sarah grab it when she picked up your things. I thought you might want it. I turned to face him. This man who noticed everything. Who'd turned his company upside down to protect me. Who'd somehow made me fall in love with him while I was healing from his brother's violence. Thank you, I said softly. For all of it. You don't have to. I do. You gave me a chance when most CEOs would have just swept everything under the rug. You believed me. You protected me. You let me heal at my own pace. I stepped closer. And you let me see the real you. The man who's trying so hard to be better than his father, better than his brother, better than the legacy he inherited. That takes courage, Isaac. He caught my hand, threading our
fingers together. You make me want to be that better person. You already are. Then I want to be better still. For you, for this company, for everyone we couldn't protect before. His gray eyes held mine. And I want to do it with you beside me. Not as some employee I'm dating, but as a true partner. In work and in everything else. My heart stuttered. Isaac, I know it's fast. I know we've only really been together for 6 weeks. But I've spent 8 months watching you from a distance, and 6 weeks learning who you really are. And Tara, I don't want to wait anymore. He pulled something from his pocket, a small velvet box that made my breath stop. I'm not asking for an answer today. I'm just asking you to think about it. About us. About building something real together. He opened the box. Inside was a ring, elegant, understated, with a single diamond that caught the morning light and threw rainbows across the office walls. This was my mother's, Isaac said quietly. My father gave it to her when they were both 23 and stupid in love. Before the company consumed him. Before he became someone she didn't recognize. She told me, right before she died, that she wanted me to give it to someone who would remind me to stay human. Someone who would fight to keep me from becoming my father. Tears were streaming down my face now. You think I'm that person? I know you are. You already have been. He closed the box and pressed it into my palm. Keep it. Think about it. And when you're ready, whether that's tomorrow or next year or 10 years from now, let me know. I looked down at the box in my hand, at Isaac standing in front of me, vulnerable in a way CEOs were never supposed to be. At the office I'd earned through trauma and courage and refusing to stay silent. And I thought about coffee shop arguments and anonymous reports and dislocated shoulders. About late-night planning sessions and burned pasta and falling asleep on someone's couch. About 8 months of secret watching and 6 weeks of careful healing and a future that was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. What if I already know? I whispered. Isaac went very still. What? What if I don't need time to think about it? What if I already know that you're the person I want to build something with? Tara, I don't want you to feel pressured. I don't. I opened the box again, looking at the ring that had belonged to a woman who'd loved a man before he lost himself. I feel sure. Terrified, but sure. Is that a yes? I pulled the ring from the box and held it out to him. Put it on me and find out. His hand shook as he slid the ring onto my finger. It fit perfectly, like it had been waiting for me all along. Yes, I said as he pulled me into his arms. Yes to you. Yes to us.
Yes to building something better than what came before. Yes to all of it. He kissed me there in my new office, with the morning sun streaming through the windows and the whole company probably gossiping about us somewhere below. And I didn't care. Let them talk. Let them whisper. Let them try to understand how the CEO and the analyst fell in love over coffee shop philosophy and corporate espionage and the careful work of healing. We knew the truth. And the truth was messy and complicated and completely insane. But it was ours. 1 year later, I stood in the Morris Industries main conference room, the same room where Raphael had hurt me, and faced a room full of employees. The anonymous reporting system received 347 submissions in the first 6 months, I told them. Of those, we investigated 212. We terminated 43 people for violations ranging from harassment to embezzlement to intimidation. We promoted 67 people who'd been unfairly held back. And we implemented 74 policy changes based on employee feedback. There was murmuring, some approving, some skeptical. I know some of you think this is just PR, I continued. Corporate window dressing to make us look good after the Raphael Morris scandal. And I get it. You've been burned before. You've seen executives promise change and then nothing actually changes. I glanced at Isaac, who stood at the back of the room. He nodded encouragingly. But I'm asking you to give us a chance. To use these systems. To report problems. To hold us accountable when we screw up, and we will screw up. Because we're human. But we're trying. And we'll keep trying as long as you keep telling us what needs to change. After the meeting, Isaac found me in my office. I was staring at the window, watching the city lights flicker on as evening fell. You did great, he said, wrapping his arms around me from behind. Half of them think I'm naive. The other half think I'm your puppet. Screw what they think. You've changed this company more in a year than anyone has in a decade. We changed it. Together. Okay, yes. Together. He kissed the side of my neck. Ready to go home? Dr. Chen says we need to review the prenatal vitamins tonight. I turned in his arms, still not quite believing this was my life. I can't believe we're doing this. Having a baby? Building a family while rebuilding a company, while getting married in 3 months, while trying to maintain some semblance of work-life balance. I laughed. We're insane. Probably. But we're insane together. He rested his hand on my still flat stomach. And honestly, I can't wait to see what chaos our kid brings to Morris Industries in 20 years. God help us all. We left the office together, hand in hand, and I caught sight of our reflection in the elevator's mirrored walls. 2 people who shouldn't have worked on paper, CEO and analyst, heir and employee, watcher and watched, but who somehow fit perfectly in practice. Do you ever regret it? I asked quietly as the elevator descended. The investigation, the trial, sending your own brother to prison. Isaac was quiet for a moment. Raphael had gotten 15 years for embezzlement, assault, and witness intimidation. The trial had been brutal, with Isaac testifying against his own brother. No, he finally said. I regret not seeing it sooner.
I regret that other people got hurt before you. But stopping him, protecting you, that I'll never regret. He's still your brother. And you're my wife. Well, almost wife. And the mother of my child. And my partner in every way that matters. He pulled me closer. Family isn't just blood, Tara. It's who you choose, who you protect, who you build a life with. Raphael chose to be a monster. I choose you. The elevator doors opened and we stepped out into the lobby. Marcus was waiting with the car and Sarah was coordinating something on her tablet that probably had to do with our wedding, or the baby, or the new ethics initiative, or all three. Mr. Morris, Ms. Jones? Marcus greeted us with a small smile. Ready to head home? More than ready, Isaac said, helping me into the car. As we drove through the city, past the cafe where Isaac had first seen me, past the Morris Industries building that I'd walked into terrified and now walked out of confident, past all the places that had become part of our story, I thought about everything that had changed in 1 year. Raphael was in prison. Morris Industries had been transformed from the inside out. I'd gone from analyst to director to fiancé to mother-to-be. Isaac had gone from lonely CEO to partner to father-in-waiting. And somewhere in all of that chaos and change and careful rebuilding, we'd figured out how to love each other. Not despite the trauma or because of it, but through it. By showing up every day and choosing each other and doing the hard work of healing, both individually and together. What are you thinking about? Isaac asked, noticing my silence. How different everything is from a year ago. Better different or worse different? I looked at the ring on my finger, his mother's ring that I now wore. At the man beside me who'd watched me from a distance for months before finding the courage to step closer. At the life we were building together, complicated and messy and absolutely worth it. Better, I said. Definitely better. He smiled and pulled me closer, and as the city lights blurred past the car window, I realized something important. Sometimes the best love stories don't start with fairy tale meetings or love at first sight. Sometimes they start with coffee shop arguments and anonymous reports, and having the courage to do the right thing, even when it's terrifying. Sometimes they start with someone seeing you, really seeing you, and deciding you're worth fighting for. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, they end with building an empire together, one careful choice at a time. 3 months later, I walked down the aisle in a small ceremony with my grandmother beaming in the front row, and Isaac waiting at the altar looking like he couldn't quite believe his luck. We said our vows, the traditional ones and the personal ones we'd written about partnership and protecting each other and building something better than what came before. I promise to keep you human, I told him, my voice steady despite the tears on my cheeks. To remind you why we're doing this when the work gets hard. To be your partner in transformation, both corporate and personal. And to love you. Not the CEO, not the Morris heir, but you, Isaac. The man who plays piano at midnight and burns pasta and chose to be better than his bloodline. I promise to protect you, he said, his hands gentle as they held mine. Not just from physical threats, but from becoming cynical or losing hope. To listen when you push back, to stand beside you when you fight for what's right, and to love you. The woman who argued about coffee farmers and refused to stay silent, and somehow saw past the CEO to the man I wanted to be. We kissed as husband and wife, and the small gathering applauded,
And somewhere Raphael was probably cursing us both from his prison cell. But we were here. We were together. And we were building something real from the ashes of something corrupt. That was victory enough. 6 months after that, I gave birth to a baby girl with Isaac's gray eyes and my stubborn chin. We named her Elena, after Isaac's mother, and she screamed her way into the world at 3 a.m. like she already knew she was going to change everything. "She's perfect," Isaac whispered, holding her for the first time with tears streaming down his face. "Tara, she's perfect." "She's loud is what she is." "That too." He looked up at me, this man who'd promised to stay human. And I saw something shift in his expression. Something soften and strengthen simultaneously. "Thank you. For her. For us. For everything. Thank you for believing me that day in the conference room. I'll believe you every day for the rest of our lives." And he did. Through late-night feedings and boardroom battles and all the chaos of raising a daughter while transforming a company culture. Through the moments when I doubted myself and the times when he doubted himself and the 1,000 small choices that make up a marriage. We built our empire, one careful decision at a time. Not an empire of money or power or corporate dominance, but something better. An empire of integrity, of second chances, of people who chose to do the right thing even when it was hard. Morris Industries became known not for its profits, but for its ethics, for being the company that actually cared about its employees, for having a CEO who'd sent his own brother to prison rather than cover up corruption, and for having a director of ethical compliance who'd started as an analyst, survived an assault, and somehow married the boss without anyone being able to question whether she'd earned her place. Because I had earned it. Through every report I filed, every wrong I fought to right, every time I refused to stay silent. I earned it by being exactly who Isaac had seen in that cafe 8 months before we ever spoke. Someone who cared about doing the right thing, even when no one was watching. 10 years later, I stood in the same conference room where it all began. Renovated now, brighter, with art on the walls chosen by employee vote, and faced a new crop of analysts who looked as nervous as I'd once felt. "Welcome to Morris Industries," I told them. "I'm Tara Morris, Director of Ethical Compliance, and I'm here to tell you that it's okay to push back. It's okay to question authority. It's okay to file reports when something seems wrong. Because 10 years ago, I was sitting where you are, and I filed a report that exposed $12 million in embezzlement. And yes, it was terrifying. And yes, I got hurt because of it. But I also helped change this company. I helped make it somewhere you can actually speak up without fear. And I met my husband in the process. Though I don't recommend that particular path to workplace romance." They laughed nervously. "The point is, you have power here. Real power. Use it wisely, but use it. And if anyone, and I mean anyone, including me, including the CEO, including any executive in this building, ever makes you feel unsafe or pressured or scared, you report it. That's not idealism. That's policy. And we enforce it." After the meeting, Isaac found me. He was graying at the temples now, laugh lines carved deep around his eyes from 10 years of actually smiling regularly. "Elena wants to know if we're coming to her piano recital tonight," he said. "Of course. I promised I'd be there." "She also wants to know if she can have a puppy." Absolutely not. That's what I said. She didn't believe me. We walked toward the elevator together, and I caught sight of new photos on the wall of ethics we'd installed. Employee success stories, anonymous reports that had led to positive changes, statistics about improved workplace satisfaction. And there, in the center, a photo from 10 years ago. A young analyst with bruises on her face and fire in her eyes, standing next to a CEO who'd chosen justice over family. Do you think we did it? I asked Isaac quietly. Do you think we actually changed things? He looked at the wall, then at me, then back at the bustling office full of people who felt safe enough to laugh and argue and push back. Yeah, he said. I think we did. And as we left Morris Industries together, hand in hand, like we'd done every day for 10 years, I believed him. Because we'd built something real, something that would outlast us, something worth every moment of fear and pain and struggle. We'd built an empire of ethics, and it was beautiful. Did you like the story? Do you want a part 2? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Also, tell us which state you're watching from so I can give you a shout out in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe so you can stay updated on our next uploads. Thanks for watching.